Hello, my name is Paige. I'm going to be showing you how to properly use a microscope and all the parts of the microscope itself. Using this beautiful microscope here, I'm going to be showing you the parts. So the first thing, obviously, what you want to do is plug in the microscope because there is going to be light coming in from this microscope. So I've already done that. So just a few basics about the microscope itself. This is the base of the microscope. This is what holds the microscope up, right? And this is what contains the light of the microscope. When you're holding the microscope itself, you want to be holding it by the bottom of the base and by this piece here as well, which I'll tell you more about in a moment. That's really all there is to know about the base. The base also does have the light switch, or the on-off switch. So this turns it on and this turns it off. It also has this knob here. Again, I'll mention in a moment. This is the stage. This is where you put your samples. This is where you put your slide, and this is what you are going to be looking at through your microscope. It has a switch that will hold, it's called the slide holder. It holds your slide in place. So if you were to have a slide with a specimen on it, you take the slide, put it on the microscope, and this slide holder holds it in place. If you want to look at different areas of the slide itself, you don't have to move the slide around the slide itself to look at that part of the image. You use these knobs here that control basically the Y direction and the X direction of movement. So yeah, you can move your slide in each way to find the perfect image. And that is the stage. So basically that's where the light's going to be coming up from. That's where your slide's going to rest on. The next thing is the arm. So this is what I mentioned earlier, that is a part of the part that you want to hold the microscope by, in addition to the base. You never want to be holding it only by the arm, just to be cautious. So the arm is what contains, or what holds up, the eyepieces and the nose pieces. There really isn't much else to be described about the arm. Yeah, so the next thing is the nose piece. The revolving nose piece has 3 objective lenses, each increasing in magnification. So we have the lowest one, which is 10x, or the lowest one, which is 4x. The second lowest is 10x, and then the highest is the 40x. The total magnification is going to be whatever is on these lenses times 10, and I'll mention why in a second. So yeah, these are increasing in magnification. If you want to see an image really close up, you would use the 40x. The next part is the iris diaphragm. So this part of the microscope is what presents the light up to your slide. This is really the main part of the light that you're going to be worried about. It has this control lever here that will allow you to adjust the amount of light that is lit into the image. This is when it's closed, and you can see the numbers here. So this is letting 0 amount of light in, and then it's increasing as you move it to the right. Usually you want to start with this at 0 and then slowly open this, because you don't want the light to be too intense. And then you also control this by the stage condenser, and it is this knob here. Hopefully you can see it. This knob here moves the iris up and down. So an easy way to know how far or how close the iris should be to your slide is, I like to bring it all the way up and then slightly down. And then once you do that, you really don't have to touch this knob for the rest of the time that you're observing the slide. It might be a good practice to put it all the way back down by the time you're finished. So yeah, you want to bring it all the way up and then bring it down just slightly. That's the iris. Really the biggest thing that you need to know about in terms of light. You really don't need to mess with this part at all. This is where the light's going to be coming in from and being magnified through the iris. And then another way to control the amount of light is very important in this microscope, or in any microscope really, is the light adjustment knob here, which is labeled to let you know if you're letting in more or if you're letting in less light. And yeah, so that brings us to our adjustments. So to move the stage up and down, you're going to be using this bigger knob. This is called the coarse knob, or coarse adjustment knob, because it is such a drastic change to your image. Don't be afraid to bring this almost all the way up. If you have it all the way down, you're really not going to see anything but a blur most of the time. So you can just bring this all the way up, and then you can adjust that from there. And then you have this smaller knob. This knob is called fine adjustment knob. This controls how sharp your image is. So you want to be looking through the eyepiece when you're doing both adjustments. This you can see kind of like a camera when you're looking through the lens, that when it's focusing, it's kind of refining your image. So that's what this is for. Those are the knobs, and there is a lock on this side of the knob in case you wanted to lock the focus. And then that brings us to our lovely eyepiece, our binocular eyepieces. So earlier I mentioned that the total magnification was whatever number is on here times 10. That is because these eyepieces are 10x in magnification. So that's why the total magnification is 10 times whatever the number is on there. And then as you can see, I can remove the eyepieces, both of them. This is just cool in case you wanted to put in an accessory to the microscope that allows you to take an image and put it on your computer, stuff like that. You can even put the camera in and then look at it through your computer instead of looking it through the eyepiece. So that's a cool thing about them. It is adjustable, so when you are looking through the microscope, you want to adjust it to the width of your eyes. Your lab partner might have a wider set of eyes than you do, so don't be afraid that when you're looking at the slide after them, bring the eyepieces in so that you're comfortable and you're just looking into the image. Another thing about the eyepieces that are cool, the right one has an arrow in it, so when you're looking through it, you see an arrow, and you can rotate it to point at a specific part of your image. So if you were to write a lab report and you wanted to take a picture of your image and say this is what we're focusing on, or look at where the arrow is pointing, you can take a picture with your phone through the lens itself, and you can see the arrow, and that way you can easily point out a specific part of your image. So yeah, that's really all there is to know about the microscope. I'm going to turn it on and then show you a little bit more about the light. So you probably can see that there's just barely any light. I'm gonna put it all the way down. And then as I move this knob, this light adjustment knob, you can see that the light increases from the base. And then you can see that there isn't really light being presented up onto the stage. I'm going to lower this so that you can see the iris. So as I move this to the right, more light is lit up into the stage. Typically you don't need it all the way up. You can keep it closed and then slightly open it to look at your image while you're looking through the eyepiece. So yeah, that is pretty much it. That's all there is to know about these kind of microscopes. There are other microscopes where there isn't a built-in light, in which you'd have to use a portable one. Those microscopes typically is not microscopes that you use slides for. You might use a petri dish and you want to look at a specimen close up. So you put it on the stage and you put a light onto it and adjust certain parts of the microscope to look at your image. But those microscopes are very similar, except for you just don't have the light situation. But you still do have the eyepieces, the lenses, the coarse and the fine knobs. So if you know how to work one of these microscopes, you should be fine with any other microscope. So that's all there is to know. So thank you for watching and enjoy looking at tiny things. Welcome to biology.